Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're exploring something that is absolutely crucial if you're trying to scale a business: architecting flow. If you've ever felt totally trapped in that endless cycle of working harder and harder without actually growing, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to look at the hidden mechanics of how work actually moves through an organization, why pushing harder usually just breaks things, and how you can escape that trap by orchestrating your systems, and eventually AI, to unlock true sustainable scale. So let me ask you a provocative question right off the bat. Why is your hardest work stopping your growth? It sounds totally counterintuitive, right? I mean, we're all taught that effort equals results. But in business, sheer effort often just digs a deeper hole. It creates what experts call the illusion of effort. When a business stagnates, it almost never collapses from a lack of hard work. Instead, it just suffocates from systemic friction. Your team might be producing a ton of motion, but absolutely zero momentum. Okay, let's dive into this. A recent McKinsey report highlights that only 21% of enterprises successfully redesign their workflows for AI integration. Just 21%. That highlights a massive, incredibly expensive problem across the business world today: the dreaded shelfware problem. Companies are out there buying up AI tech without a strategy, kind of hoping the tool will magically fix their friction like a digital Band-Aid. But adding new tech to a broken system just gives you a faster broken system.
To fix this, we need a diagnostic framework. Here is our agenda for today's explainer. First, the illusion of effort. Second, finding the real bottleneck. Third, the theory of constraints. Fourth, solving the founder bottleneck. And finally, orchestrating AI for impact.
Section 1. The illusion of effort.
Like we just touched on, businesses suffocate from misdirected focus. You might have your marketing team generating absolute record numbers of leads, but if your sales team can't process them, all that marketing effort is just an illusion of progress. You're just adding pressure to a system that can't handle it. This crucial point is beautifully captured by a simple motorway analogy. Imagine a 4-lane motorway suddenly reduced to one single lane because of roadworks. Cars back up, right? But it's not because the drivers are bad or they lack effort. The system's capacity is simply capped at its narrowest point. In your business, a bottleneck reflects a slow system, not an individual failure. It's the exact point where demand exceeds supply, setting the pace for your entire organization.
And honestly, if you just throw technology at that traffic jam without actually widening the lane, things get so much worse. As CKGSB Knowledge notes, now with AI, it has also made mediocrity effortless, and we're drowning in AI slop. If you simply slap AI onto a broken, bottleneck system, you literally just generate extra noise. You end up with overly lengthy summaries, inaccurate data, and team members endlessly checking machine outputs. You get slop without accelerating any true value.
Section 2. Finding the real bottleneck. So, if we know bottlenecks cap our growth, how do we actually diagnose the true constraint within a business? We can't just rely on gut feelings, and we definitely shouldn't just listen to the department that's shouting the loudest. We need a clinical, data-driven approach. Enter value stream mapping. This means mapping the exact journey from the very moment a lead is generated all the way to cash in the bank. You map out every single step, hunting for those black holes where work just seems to disappear into delays. By mapping this out, you can apply Little's Law, which tells us that lead time equals work in progress divided by throughput. Think of it kind of like a coffee shop. Your wait time, or lead time, depends entirely on how many people are in line, your work in progress, divided by how fast the barista makes the coffee, which is your throughput. If your lead times are way too long, you have to either increase throughput or cap the work in progress. This mapping finds the exact cue that's holding everything else hostage.
When mapping finally reveals your constraint, you've got to attack it with the right mindset. And there's a stark difference in how leaders approach this. Tool-first thinking starts with a capability, like some trendy new software, and tries to find a use for it, which usually leads straight to abandoned shelfware. Problem-first thinking, on the other hand, starts with the quantified business bottleneck you just mapped and searches for a specific solution, leading to actual, measurable ROI. A really great provocation from our sources to test your mindset is this: would this initiative still matter if it didn't use AI? If the answer is no, well, it's an experiment, not a strategy.
Section 3. The theory of constraints.
Introduced by Eliyahu Goldratt back in the 1980s, this is the ultimate treatment plan for the bottlenecks we've just diagnosed. It's a philosophy of control based on the idea that every system has one limiting factor, and performance only improves when that specific factor is addressed. Goldratt gives us a rigid 5-step playbook. First, identify the constraint. Second, exploit it.
maximize its current capacity without spending a single dime. Third, subordinate everything else to support that flow. Fourth, elevate the constraint with investment, like new tech or hires, but only if it's still stuck. And finally, repeat the cycle, because guess what? A new bottleneck will inevitably emerge. Skipping straight to step 4, throwing money at new AI tools before exploiting and subordinating, is hands down the fastest way to lock in expensive inefficiency.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the Value Cost Optimization, or VCO framework, guides you when you finally reach step 4 of the theory of constraints and decide to elevate with AI. It ensures you actually do it right. The core principles involve heavily assessing impact and evaluating costs before making a move. For startups especially, following this structured implementation process yields huge benefits. It delivers resource optimization, quick wins, and vital stakeholder confidence because you're proving that your AI investments are firmly anchored to real business problems, mitigating financial risk. Section 4. Solving the founder bottleneck. Let's pivot to a pretty harsh human reality. We've talked a lot about processes and technology, but as operations scale, the most common bottleneck is usually, well, the founder or the leadership team themselves. Here's the brutal truth from executive coach Jake Smolarek. The bottleneck is almost always them. Facing that truth isn't weakness, it's control. When every single decision, approval, and piece of context has to flow through one person's calendar, the whole organization slows to their pace. Decision latency, micromanagement, like those endless reply-all email chains that just steal your soul, and an ego-driven need for control completely cap the speed of the entire system. To fix this, there has to be a fundamental identity shift. Leaders absolutely must stop being the operator and become the architect. The operator is focused on local optimization, right? They hoard decisions, micromanage details, and ultimately become the choke point. The architect, on the other hand, is focused on global optimization. They design systems, delegate authority, and manage the overall flow. You simply can't scale an organization until you scale the psychology of its leader.
To make that transition from operator to architect, leaders can use the 10-80-10 framework. It's just brilliant in its simplicity. You spend 10% of your time setting a crystal clear vision. You spend 80% of the time empowering your team to actually execute, staying entirely out of their way. And then you return for the final 10% to review, refine, and provide feedback. By distributing context and accountability this way, you effectively remove yourself as the organizational bottleneck.
Section 5. Orchestrating AI for impact. So, you've mapped your value stream, used the theory of constraints to clear operational blockages, and removed the human founder bottleneck. Now, and only now, are you ready to integrate AI strictly as a targeted accelerant. The most successful companies don't just roll out software, they break work down and orchestrate it. And this brilliantly illustrates how true scale requires human-AI orchestration. Machine tasks are for the heavy data lifting, speed, scanning infinite patterns, gathering evidence, drafting first versions. But human tasks remain distinct. Critical thinking, making tough judgment calls, having agency, and holding accountability. Because at the end of the day, AI doesn't have skin in the game. It doesn't feel the heat of a crisis.
Let's look at some hard proof of this orchestration in action with a case study on TechFlow Solutions. They were really struggling with manual lead qualification. That was their quantified bottleneck. By aiming AI specifically at that constraint, the results were staggering. Qualified leads jumped by 300%. The cost per lead plummeted by 60%, going from $89 down to just $36. And because the human sales team wasn't bogged down in data entry anymore, their sales velocity became 2.5 times faster. That right there is the real power of problem-first AI.
We see this harmonious concert at a massive scale with Asian corporate giants like Grab and Shein. They use AI to speed up sensing, analysis, and coordination at superhuman speeds. But crucially, their workflows are designed to physically pause the AI systems when a case reaches a point that requires human judgment. Humans are kept tightly in the loop for complex escalations, to apply standards, and to accept risks. AI is the amplifier for sure, but humans remain the ultimate orchestrators.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative question to consider today. Are you building a system or just a faster treadmill? If you're just working harder or buying AI to do the wrong things faster, you're literally just running on a treadmill. But if you apply the theory of constraints today, if you identify your true bottleneck, exploit it, subordinate to it, and elevate it, you can finally stop working harder and start flowing faster. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to step back, architect your flow, and unlock your true scale.
Twende Sankororo, Sankororo, Nigeria.